Welcome to Wagered on Tilt. I am T, and today we're going to be covering a sports betting model for baseball. So this is a model that is going to be somewhat similar to the yes runs first inning model. However, I've tweaked it to try and bet the first five of a baseball game. This is not the only model that I'm using. I do use other models. As I have said before, the more models you have, the better, because that way the more models that you have pointing in the same direction as far as a decision point helps really guide whether or not you're on track. So this one is going to be counting based upon the lineup and some of the similar information from the yes run first inning, and then applying that to the first five innings. The second version that I run with this is a linear regression model, and then this one will allow me to try and see, are both models kind of following the same path? Are the numbers that it's producing actually making sense? So let's go ahead and jump on into the spreadsheet. So first things first, let's go ahead and set up our sheet information. So I, as always, like to call the main screen dashboard. Then I'm going to create a secondary sheet called batting, and then a third sheet, and I'll just call this pitching. And it helps if I spell dashboard correct. All right, so now that we have that, I need to mark there's going to be an away team. There is going to also be somewhere over here a home team, so I'll put this on G, home. The other values that I need is going to be a parsed name. Then I have my runs created plus, I have my per five inning, and then I have my estimated. I will have the same exact information over here. Now, you don't need to do a parsed name unless you can't find that name unparsed. So most of the websites that I use for my data, when it does the lineups, it has a bunch of additional content in the name. To remove that, I have to set up a parsing string. So let's go down here to 10, 11. Let's go here and say this is going to be the pitcher. And we'll do the same over here. So let's go ahead and format this just to give it a nice clean look. We will say black with yellow font, make it bold, and we'll take the format painter and go across here. Again, format painter, and I'm just going to do this really quick. Here, just change this out, pitcher. This will go here. Pitcher. All right, now that we have that filled out, we do know that we're going to need some additional stats from our pitcher. So I want to see what is their FIP versus the average. I want to see the estimated runs against per inning. Then I want to get the estimated runs against per five inning, and we'll want this all for our other pitcher as well. Okay, so this is now set up for our basic information. So next we need to go ahead and start collecting some statistics that we're going to be able to use. So I like to use Fangraphs because they use a lot of splitting and it's a little bit easier to collect that data. So we'll go ahead and head over to Fangraphs right now. When you're in Fangraphs, you can come up here to Team, Batting Stats, and go to the year that you're looking for. So we will go with 2022. So when this opens up, I'm going to choose Player Stats, and I'm going to say Split Leaderboards. And now this is going to give me an opportunity to set some additional parameters. So in here, I'm going to say versus batting is going to be versus a left-handed pitcher. And I can set it as just straight that. I can set it as a lefty against ball at home, a lefty away, things like that. So we're going to keep this very basic. You could get it a little bit more in depth and for more accuracy. So I'm just going to say left-handed by itself. And I'm going to say update. So what we're going to want to click after we've set the left-handed pitcher is advanced. And in here, we've got this value that we wanted, the runs created plus. So we're going to go ahead and export the data. Once the data has been exported, it's going to go ahead and populate into a new Excel workbook that you'll have to download. It's pretty easy though. You just go ahead and copy and paste the information out. All right, so this section is going to be for against left-handed. And then we'll add another one over here that is going to be for against right-handed. In order to get the right-handed information, you just want to go ahead and go back in, click verse right-handed pitchers, update, and export. Once it's been exported, same thing, copy and paste it in, and then you are done. So now you have this information set in 2 different sections, which is great, and that's what we'll need. So we'll come back over here and start getting prepared to do some of our calculations. So now that we're prepared to do some of our calculations, the first thing we need to do is get some teams. In order to get some teams, I like to use this website. It is baseballpress.com lineups. It gives you all the lineup information, and this is where I like to grab the information from because it's relatively quick to grab this from here. So 5. And the URL is pretty simplistic, so if you write a scraper, you can actually scrape this pretty quickly. So we are going to go back to the second. All right, so we're going to take the Royals versus the Cardinals. So I'm going to take this information, I'm going to paste it here, remove the links, and now that I have that, I have the away team, and I have my home team. Paste that there. All right, now we're going to have to do some, formulas to try and parse out this information. So this one is going to be a little bit different. So we're going to have to say equals right. So it's going to take the right string, but then we need to say left, A2, find, and we're going to find the parenth from A2, starting in position 1. Then we need to subtract 2 for the length. Then we're going to say len, left, A2, find, parenth, A2 minus 1 minus 2, close parenth. Helps if I actually hit the parenth. Close parenth, minus 3, close parenth. Oops, and there's an extra minus in there. So what this is going to do is say, go ahead and find me the internal of saying grab everything to the left of where this first parenthesis is, so it'll include that 1. And then we're saying go ahead and take everything to the right of that. So then we actually are trimming out the player's name, which is going to allow us to do a lookup a lot easier. So you can go ahead and put this into all of these cells. You can also go ahead and write VBA to trim this out if you want. I didn't write any VBA because, again, this per 5 innings is a testing session for me. I'm still trying to hone in on what I really want to do with it. So I haven't done anything overly complicated. All right, so now that we've got that, we need to go ahead and establish the pitchers. So let's collect their names. All right. So the pitcher name is going to be slightly different because it doesn't contain a number in the front. So this is actually going to be a slightly differing formula. So we'll take this one, paste it here, go back. All right, we're going to remove our links. Great. Now, next to this, I want to write whether or not this is a right-handed or left-handed. The letter inside the parenthesis tells you if they're righty or lefty. So we'll go ahead and do that. Left. Okay, now we've set up who is who and who's going to be playing in this game. Now that we have our lineup set, let's go ahead and start writing our lookup. So I'm going to say equal if error. So what the if error is going to do is that if there is no match and the value lookup breaks, we're going to go ahead and just say display 0. This can happen for rookies or players that haven't played for a while and we're on injured lists and things like that. So then we're going to say parenthesis if I12 equals right. Then we're going to VLOOKUP B2 from batting. And we're going to say this was left, this was right from here. Okay. And then we need to go ahead and return back the rightmost column. That has our runs created plus. So that'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. The 16th most value. And we're going to say false because we want an exact match. Then we can copy this formula because it's going to be, if this is not right, then it's left. So we need to do A to P. Okay, and same thing, we're going to look up the 16th value. We're going to close this, and we're going to say we're going to divide it by 100. And what that's going to do is allow us to flatten out the value. -1, and if it's not there, display 0, hit enter. So now that we have that, one thing that we want to do is go ahead and lock these cells. So that was something I did wrong in the formula. That is 100% on me. So let's lock all these and make sure they are completely locked. Lock, lock, lock. Great. Now we'll take this and paste it across. Take this, paste it, and paste it down here. And in this, we need to update this to point to I rather than that one because we are looking at the away pitcher. All right, so now we have this. Now that we have the batting information in here, the other critical piece is we need to get the pitching information in here. And as you'll see here, we don't have any of this pitching information. So what you can do is the same thing. You can go ahead and go into Fangraphs and get the statistics that you're going to need out of there. And you would set it up for pitching. So I'm just going to paste in the data that I have. So we've got the pitching information in here now. And the thing that you're going to want to look for is FIP and TBF, which is total batters faced. In order to figure out how many batters they face in an inning, you would obviously just take TBF divided by IP, and then that will get you the total batters faced. So what you can do is go ahead and set that up in here. So let's add in here TBF divided by IP, and for this formula, we're going to go ahead and do a match and say equal indirect pitching, and the column was right here. That's going to be in pitching A to B to B because I have the year set up in column A and 0, and we'll close that, and then we're going to need to divide this all back to pitching, and we're going to copy the same indirect formula. And this time we're just going to switch this to D. So it's total batters faced divided by innings pitched. And okay, so this pitcher faces roughly 4.09 batters per inning. So then if you want to see total at bats, you can go ahead and say equal this times 5. Which means roughly they're going to see about 20.45 batters per 5 innings. So in here we can start kind of distributing those values and saying, okay, I think they'll see them twice, twice, all the way down, right? And if you want to try and offset some of this and say 1, 1, because maybe a batter is going to come through the cycle slightly different, you can do that and just try and keep in look at the sum in the lower right of Excel and be sure that you're not going over 20. So in here I have this up to 19. That's a good spot because again these are just averages. So then you would just say equals my runs created expected plus, or I'm sorry, times my per 5 inning, and we'll go ahead and take this formula up like that. So the next thing we're going to want to do is go ahead and sum up the runs by the team. So we'd say equals sum, and then we'll extend it through this range, hit enter. Now I want to add an additional piece in here. There could be a whole bunch of rookies, there could be a whole bunch of weird data going on in here, your sample size is too small, you've got a ton of negative values in there. So what we're going to want to do is say if sum, and we'll just copy this because we're going to need it again in a second, is less than 0, then 0, else sum. And what that's going to allow for us to do is say, if this goes below 0 and is a negative value due to there being so many rookies or whatever, it's expected to be 0 runs. Usually if you see that though, I would get a little leery about your data. You may have not collected enough, or you have something going on with the data that's wrong. So we'll go ahead and take this, copy it on over to here, paste it in. Now that we have these values here for the estimated runs, let's go ahead and get this pitcher's FIP versus the average. So FIP is field independent pitching, and we're going to see on average how many runs are they expected to give up that is their fault. So we'll go over to the pitching tab. FIP is in column Q, so and the name is in column B, so we'll just do an indirect equal indirect. Make sure my caps key is set right. Indirect pitching Q and match on this name above, the one that we parsed, and we're going to match that from pitching B to B at a 0 for a perfect match. Okay, now that we have that, we also want to go ahead and say divided by average of pitching Q to Q. So we're going to take that and get their average. So against the league average, this is where they stand. They're a little bit over the league average. So then next we can say their actual estimated runs per inning. So we'll come in here and just copy this because this is going to get us, again, the FIP. And we'll say equals the FIP for this pitcher divided by 9. And then we'll take this value of the estimated runs against in the first 5 will be equal their runs against that they give up per inning times the amount of runs that the opponent is expected to get. And that gives us our number. From here, we can round this value out and say round, take it to 0 decimals, which will get us 1. So it says that this pitcher, Zach, is going to give up 1 run. So what we're going to want to do now is match this information over to here for the other team. And I'm just going to copy this formula out, paste it here, and where dashboard is there, we're going to point to the other pitcher. Okay, and here we're going to take this, paste it here, and just switch this for this. Okay, now we're going to take the same formula here, again, just copy and paste it on over. So here we're going to be, instead of looking at that pitcher, we're looking at the actual pitcher for this team. Then we'll come over for the runs per inning, right? Same thing. You're going to go ahead and copy this out, paste it in here, and divide it by 9 for per inning. Then you're going to take equals this value times this value equals, okay? And then if we round this one, round, and then again, comma 0, take it to 0 decimals. Okay, now that we have that, this still might be a little difficult to read, so what we're going to want to do is then put in here a new field and just say X runs, so our expected runs, and we're just going to kind of point cross, if that makes sense. So X runs. So X runs is actually going to equal how many runs the opponent's giving up for this team, and our expected runs for the away team is going to be how many runs the opponent's giving up. And again, this is based on a 5 basis, so this is only first 5. So let's go ahead and take a quick peek at the scores for this game. So this game was the Royals versus St. Louis in the first 5. So looking at this, the first 5, it was a 1-0 game in the first 5, and actually in the entire game. So then we're going to want to go ahead and test this again, right? Because again, you don't want just one game, and even 20 games or 100 games is not enough to know that this kind of a build works. So I do suggest that you test this against hundreds of games, take it across multiple seasons, and be sure you're grabbing the correct stats for multiple seasons. So we'll paste this info. So this is going to be the Angels versus the White Sox. And let's see your pitcher, and this one is a lefty. And Dylan is a righty. All right. So we'll go ahead and take a look at this one. So it is expected runs are 3 and their expected runs are 0. And this was actually a 2-0 first 5. So this was off by 1. They picked up the 3rd run in the 6th. So let's test another one for this day. And again, when testing these, right, you can't just assume, okay, well, this is accurate enough, I'm going to run with it. Again, you want to come with other coefficients. What is the weather? What is the umpires like? What is the health of the team? Has a player more recently been able to get on base? Have they been playing more aggressively and stealing more bases, right? That will throw off a lot of these numbers, and you got to learn to try and account for those. Unfortunately, there's no easy way to account for them. And if you do come up with a way to account for them, I do recommend you keep that to yourself, because if that's an angle you can take on a game, do it. Don't tell anybody, because the more people that do it, the more often that knowledge is going to spread, and eventually the book is going to find out, and they're going to start looking at that angle and trying to account for it into their own lines. I am a fan of sharing information to help others and help others grow in the thought process. But if you have a true build and a perfect running model for your need, and it's hitting a lot, don't share it. So we're going to go ahead and do this one again. So we've got Zach, a new Zach in here, and a picture here. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. All right, so, and then Pablo, who's right, the other Zach who's right, and make sure I've got the team in there correctly. All right, all that looks right. So this is saying that it was going to be actually the Marlins only get 1 run within the first 5. And let's go take a look. So like this one was off. This one was saying that the Marlins were going to get a 1 in the first 5, and actually Arizona got 4 in the first 5. So let's go ahead and take a look at the next one. And we got this one, so we're going to take a look at Minnesota versus Baltimore. Do this really quick here. And this is the nice thing about the parsing, is if you copy and paste lineups quickly, you can dump this data in. You can automate it. It will help. However, depending upon how you want to write code and what you write in will change the automation process. All right, so like here, we're getting this issue where it's saying NA, because it's not able to find Tyler Wells within my data set. So right there, I know something's wrong. I probably shouldn't proceed with testing this one, or I should try and go fetch their statistics, because for some reason they're not in my data set. So let's jump to a different game. We'll go to the Yankees versus the Blue Jays. Okay, come in here, paste this one. All right, this pitcher is a lefty, and Ross. And this pitcher is a righty. So this one is expecting a 2-1 scenario, and that the total would be 3 for the first 5. So let's go ahead and take a look at the first 5. First 5, they had 4. It was a 2-2, so that's pretty close. So this was a 2-2 game. So again, this model is not perfect by any means. I think this is a good starting place for everybody. And then you'll want to extrapolate on this as you go. I know there's a lot in there to digest and really get through and work through. So if you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment and I'll answer any questions that I can and be as helpful as I can. If you found the video helpful or useful in any way, go ahead and give it a thumbs up if you don't mind. That way people will be able to find this a little bit easier, and hopefully it'll improve their sports betting. If you like the content that I am providing, feel free to subscribe. That way you will be notified as soon as the next video is available. You can also reach me on Twitter at WageredOnTilt. I do help a lot of people with their models there. They have questions about stats, models, concepts, ideas. We bounce ideas around to try and help them out. Other than that, happy wagering.